When the Labor government were elected in early December '72, the Prime Minister at the time, Gough Whitlam, made the call that he would have the troops out of Vietnam by Christmas and home. And he did that. I think his election was around about the 11th or 12th of December, and the troops flew out, I recall, around the 18th of December. During that period, once the word came to Vietnam that we had to withdraw, Australia had not yet gathered all of the items that they wanted to return to the War Memorial with. They hadn't handed over places like the R&R Centre in Vung Tau, the Harold E. Holt R&R Centre that had been used by Australians. And a number of the items of equipment hadn't been co-located in the one place, so they could be either flown out or shipped out. And so the decision was made by the Army that there would be a small group to remain in Vietnam, to look after the embassy staff, because people were not too sure which way the war was going to go at the rear end of '72, to establish security of the embassy, those that were working in the embassy and their various residences around Saigon, and also to bring the items of equipment that I've spoken of down to Saigon so they could be repatriated to Australia. So we stayed, a small platoon and I drew the short straw, so to speak. There were a couple of other lieutenants in country too, and I and my platoon remained. And we lived in Saigon, we brought the equipment into Saigon, we prepared it, boxed it, and ultimately shipped it back to Australia. And we also established security arrangements in Saigon for the embassy and the embassy staff. During that stage, or that time, the ambassador was obviously in discussion with his counterpart in Cambodia, and as it came to pass, the Australian ambassador wanted us to fly over to, or an element of us, to fly over to Cambodia to look at the security of the Australians in Phnom Penh and what might happen in the event that they needed to hunker down and be secure and get ready to be evacuated to Australia if Vietnam fell and if Cambodia fell. And that's what we did. We went over there for a few days. I did obviously a variety of reconnaissances, so did some of my men, and some others provided cover, so to speak. We ultimately ended up playing cricket in the middle of waiting to be evacuated out of there, and it wasn't an evacuation back to Australia or anything, and there wasn't any need to pull out the Australian embassy staff. I should emphasise that. But we were waiting to fly out, and rather than roam the streets of Phnom Penh, I decided that we should play a game of cricket inside the stadium, which was a secure environment, and so that's what we did.